everyone, I'm Kyra and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my favorite recipes that I have been making throughout these cold and chilly days. I'm planning to make some more videos regarding other seasons, but that is going to be a future thing. I'm also going to be catching up a little bit. It's definitely been some time since my last upload, so I have quite a few more things going on and I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. Anywho, with all my blabbering about, let's go ahead and get into the video. I have a guest who says hello. Hi, sweet pea. I'm going to go ahead and get started with making breakfast. This is a very late breakfast, but hey, at least it's happening. So for breakfast, I'm going to be making a single serving of banana bread baked oatmeal. It just calls for a banana, some cinnamon, baking powder, rolled oats, ground flaxseed, maple syrup, soy milk, and dark chocolate chips. So let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to start off by adding the rolled oats. I don't know if anybody has watched my previous videos because I rarely upload to begin with, but this has been my go-to breakfast for quite some time. I usually rotate the produce depending on the season. Now I'm going to add in some baking powder, some cinnamon, ground flaxseed.
This isn't for you. It's not. I'm sorry. You just got fed.
Some of the maple syrup. I had this plate off to the side so that way I can mash the banana. I'll slice the other half and reserve them to top the oatmeal once it's done. Add that in. Now for the soy milk. I typically don't like to dirty up extra dishes if I don't have to, so I'm just going to stir this up with a fork until it combines. I actually find it easier with a fork. I can get to the bottom and get all of the stuff settled down there. Now that it's all stirred up, I'm going to top it with banana slices. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to finish it off with the dark chocolate chips. You don't have to use dark chocolate chips. You can use cacao nibs, semi-sweet chocolate chips, whatever you want. I just really like the Trader Joe's cacao dark chocolate chips. They're bold and smooth and reasonably priced. So I'm going to add just a handful of those. Might have grabbed too many. If you like a lot of chocolate chips, go for it. I just kind of like to do a balance. Just kind of wedge them in there. Boom, there we go. I'm going to bake it on 350 for 18 minutes. While I wait for my baked oatmeal to finish up, I'm going to take this opportunity to give a little bit of a life update. Of course, you are more than welcome to skip this portion of the video. I'm going to put a timestamp if you just want to focus on the food. I do like to give a little bit of an update as far as my hiatuses, just because I don't upload frequently. First and foremost, I do want to thank everybody who has stuck around. I truly appreciate that. Once again, I do not upload as much as I would personally like to, but since my last upload, I hope you all have been doing well and that 2025 is treating you well. If not, I hope that 2026 treats you better. Speaking of 2026, it is now the end of the year, which is very hard to believe it's the end of the year already. Needless to say, my 2025 was eventful, so I'm kind of glad that 2026 is right around the corner. So one of the first things that had changed, as you had seen in the beginning of my video, is I now have my orange tabby boy. He is Bowser's brother, Garfield. My brother chose that name for Garfield, and very fitting it is. I brought him up in February of this year, and he has been such a wonderful addition to my household. Obviously, I could talk all day about my cats, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give TLDR of how he ended up with me. As for mentioned, Bowser and Garfield are litter mates. The mother that had them also had a litter prior to them, and they were all boys. For whatever reason, she just only pushed out boys. I didn't come from a pet-loving family, so I always took care of stray cats. These kiddos are especially important because they converted my anti-animal family. I've taken care of them from the time they were about 4 to 5 weeks old. Prior to moving out of my mom's house, I grew up in a rather rough area. The landlord that had owned the property beside my mom was a shitty person to begin with, but when the kittens started getting old enough to roam around, he set up cages and threatened to drown any of the cats that he had trapped. It ended up being a whole fiasco. My mom had to call the Humane Society to pick up the cats that were captured. Bowser had always been an indoor and outdoor cat from the time he was a kitten. The other boys kind of tapered in and out, but they mostly stayed outdoors. They were about, I'd say, 15 weeks when all of this happened. They stuck around a little bit into adulthood and then disappeared. We thought we would never see them again. Garfield showed up again with what we believe was out of coincidence. There was an older lady that lived towards the end of the neighborhood who, when we first moved in, had tons of cats. She was the epitome of a crazy cat lady. She had 60 cats that ended up having to be confiscated. Shortly after she had passed was when Garfield showed up again. That's why we speculated that he was under her care. My mom tried to bring him inside, but Bowser was just not having any of it. Of course, she doesn't have the patience with cats that I do. Obviously, reintroducing cats is not always an easy process. So yeah, that's how I ended up with Garfield, and I'm very glad I got to have both of my babies. Since my last upload, I also switched jobs. Previously, I was working 2 jobs, and it was just mentally and physically exhausting. I only had 1 day off. I was working 60+ hours, but it's what you do. Since my job changed, I have a consistent schedule now. I actually recently just got a promotion, which I am so incredibly excited for. I worked exclusively retail and warehouse prior to. I'm still in warehouse, but it is a completely different atmosphere compared to previous warehouses that I've worked. Another reason why I hadn't uploaded as much was also because my mom's health was unstable for a good portion of this year. There were ER visits and still are plenty of doctor's visits. Although she is doing better, she's not 100% back into what she would consider normal. Despite everything, she has definitely made some improvements. Life is so unexpected, and I'm sure others in their 20s can also relate. When your parents get to that age, it's not always something that you're prepared for. I used to think about it from the time I was 7 or 8 that I wasn't going to have my parents at some point. It hits you harder when, you know, there's that moment when it could all just change. So I'm also very grateful for my job because with my schedule change, I am going to be able to spend more time with her. I was never one to take life for granted, and I am going to definitely make the best of whatever time this universe gives me with her and just anyone. You never know what's going to happen from day to day. So I always try to look for even the smallest positive that I possibly can. My life isn't interesting, but it's nice to talk about things outside of food. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and get into the rest of the video. It was nice catching up as always.
Mommy's going to eat. Are we going downstairs or are we just sitting here? What do you mean? Here is the finished banana bread baked oatmeal. I like to top it off with some creamy peanut butter, so I'm going to give it a dollop of that. Time to dig in. As always, my midday snack is a bar of some sort. As of recently, I have been loving Belvita bars, more specifically the pumpkin spice ones for obvious reasons. I'm trying to enjoy the last of these before they rotate them out for another seasonal flavor. As some of you may already know, I have had a gochujang obsession since last summer, and that remains true to this day. For lunch, I'm going to be making some gochujang noodles. Here are all of the ingredients. I'm going to be using soy sauce, toasted sesame seed oil, light brown sugar, rice vinegar, some sesame seeds, gochujang paste, udon noodles. So for my veggies and aromatics, I'm going to be using a red bell pepper, some garlic, a knob of ginger, green onions, and Napa cabbage. I'm also going to be frying up some of these daring chicken pieces to throw in there as well. While I wait for my water to come to a boil, I'm going to get started on the gochujang sauce. First, I'm going to add the brown sugar, soy sauce, rice vinegar, toasted sesame seed oil, and some gochujang. Give that a good stir. Now to chop the veggies. Here is the sliced red bell pepper, the green onion, garlic, and ginger. Now for the sliced Napa cabbage. Now for our gochujang sauce and the sesame seeds. It's time to add in the noodles. So I'm just giving it a crack of fresh black pepper. To complete everything, I just garnished it with some fresh cilantro. I also stirred in the daring chicken, and yeah, that's that. The spices are really warming on rainy days or just any day. I can't wait to dig in.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm having another snack in between lunch and dinner. I have been enjoying a Honeycrisp apple with some creamy peanut butter. This is my snack. I'm getting ready to go ahead and make dinner. For dinner, I'm going to be making Instant Pot split pea soup. I'm going to be using celery, carrots, a russet potato. I buy minced garlic to save me some time, a sweet onion, liquid smoke, olive oil, vegetable broth, diced tomatoes, and of course, green split peas. And that's all there is to it. It's a tad dusty, but otherwise not too bad. My Instant Pot is routinely one of my most forgotten appliances, but it really comes in handy. The sun just came out now though, so I'm still gonna eat soup anyway. I'm going to go ahead and saute the veggies. I just use a splash of olive oil to get that started. Then I'm going to turn my Instant Pot onto the saute function. My kitchen buddy has arrived. He is rubbing up on the tripod. You good, bro? Are we done? I'm going to add in the celery, carrots, and onions. Now for the potatoes. I always seem to forget to mention the spices I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using one bay leaf, some dried thyme for the vegetable broth. Now I'm adding in the split peas that I just rinsed and drained. Before I close the Instant Pot, I'm just adding some fresh black pepper. Put that on, put it on sealing, turn it on manual. Now it's just preheating. I put it on manual for 12 minutes and now it's going to do its thing. The split pea soup is finished now. I'm just letting the Instant Pot release some natural pressure before I vent it. In the meantime, I'm going to make some tempeh crumbles. Start with some olive oil. The recipe is simple. It's just tempeh and smoked paprika. Of course, I'm going to add a few ingredients based on my personal taste and preferences. I'm just going to toss some smoked paprika and some oil. I'm going to be adding some soy sauce and some Frank's Red Hot. I'm just taking some tempeh and crumbling it into the pan. Gently and carefully release that valve. Ta-da! Soup! This is the first recipe where I've ever had split pea soup with tomatoes, and it makes such a big difference. I love it so much. I'm going to give it a squeeze of lemon juice and just a pinch of salt. Now I'm going to top it with some of these tempeh crumbles. I can never have enough bread, so obviously I put another slice of sourdough on the side, but here is my finished dinner. So I'm going to make my beverage for the day. To me, there is nothing better than a warm beverage in a mug on a cold or rainy day. Typically, I am a coffee or matcha person, but during fall, I was converted to drinking chai, and ever since then, it's been hard for me to go back to either or. So I'm going to show you how I make a super quick chai latte, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off with bringing 1 cup of water to a boil. Add some maple syrup, cinnamon, and a couple of chai tea bags. I'm going to cover and let it simmer for a few moments. While that simmers, I'm going to froth some milk. I'm just using some Chobani Extra Creamy Oat Milk. That's going to conclude this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. It feels great to finally get something out there after nearly a year of not uploading. I always strive to be more consistent, so I'm hoping things get better so I can post some more. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye.